Welcome to the Beat Reporters Inbox at MLB.com, presented by Edward Jones. I'm Maria Guardado, MLB.com Angels reporter, with Ashley asking the questions. Ashley, what do we have first?
First off, we have OHL champion 2014 asking who pitches in a one-game, winner advances, loser is done, wild card playoff game.
This is a really interesting question for the Angels, who have kind of lacked that true ace in the rotation for most of the year. I think their most consistent pitcher of the last 2 months or so has probably been rookie Parker Bridwell, but even he kind of struggled in his start against the A's last night and gave up 8 runs in that one inning. Andrew Heaney, I think, is another intriguing candidate for that type of role. He's obviously only has about 4 starts under his belt since coming back from Tommy John surgery, but he's has the talent to be one of the top pitchers in the rotation. But I think another potential guy that they can turn to is someone who isn't even in the rotation right now, and that's Garrett Richards. Garrett, made his first rehab start with AAA Salt Lake last night, and he's kind of on track to come back in early September. So he's another guy who the Angels could kind of turn to that spot potentially.
All right, our next question is from Barshells. Any help coming from the minors when rosters expand soon?
Yeah, so rosters expand on Friday, so that will probably allow the Angels to bring up some guys from AAA like Jeffrey Marte or Nolan Santana, and probably some bullpen help as well with Eduardo Paredes and Mike Marin. I think one guy that you could also see is actually Fernando Salas, who was released by the Mets earlier this year, but was re-signed on the Angels on a minor league deal. So he's another guy who could come up and potentially add some reinforcement to that bullpen.
Alrighty, our next question, let's see, is from NM Baseball 52. Any chance Michael Hermosillo or Jaime Bahria come up in September? If not, when is their ETA?
Yeah, so Hermosillo and Bahria are both guys who are in AAA right now. Hermosillo is an outfielder who's having a really nice year, and Bahria is a right-hander who's also having a really nice year. I think that you probably won't see them up here for the sole reason that they're not on the 40-man roster. The Angels will probably have to clear a few spots when rosters do expand. So I think that you're more likely to see them, potentially next year to reach the majors.
Awesome. Dan Garcia 87 asks, any chance that they move Albert Pujols down in the lineup if he continues to struggle?
I think the short answer to this is no. Despite the fact that Pujols obviously is kind of performing below his usual standards, I think the Angels don't really have a clear replacement for him to take over that number 3 spot, hitting behind Mike Trout. And I think Pujols, despite the fact that he's having an off year, still drives in a lot of runs. I think he leads the team in RBIs, and I think that the fact that he can do that more often than not is really what the Angels need in that spot. So I think the fact that he commands so much respect from everyone, and the fact that he's still a pretty lethal run producer, as you saw last night with his 2 home runs, will keep him in that spot for the rest of the year.
We have a ton of questions coming in. This is very exciting. Next is from John. He asks, has there been any talk of Mike Scioscia being manager of the year? With all the injuries to the starting staff, no true closer, starters batting under 200, he still has us in the playoff race. I can't think of any other manager who could do it so well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely expect Mike Scioscia to kind of be in that conversation. As the reader alluded to, the Angels have faced a ton of adversity this season with all the injuries to the rotation. Mike Trout was out for nearly 7 weeks with an injury of his own, and yet the Angels have somehow still managed to keep their heads above water, and as of today are only 1 game behind the Twins for that second wild card spot. So I think Mike Scioscia has definitely done a good job with keeping his team even keel. I think his bullpen management has been pretty good this year, considering that the team does not have a really established closer. So yeah, I think that you'll definitely hear his name a lot in that conversation as we kind of continue down the stretch and head into the offseason.
All right, this one is from Xavier. He wants to know, do you believe we can make a run at the wild card?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Angels have proven so far that they are kind of going to stay in this mix. For now, they're, as I said, they're only 1 game behind the Twins right now, although they are one of kind of 7 teams who are kind of vying for that second wild card spot. So I think if they can kind of continue to get some good pitching out of their starting rotation, and their offense continues to scratch out some runs, I think that they can kind of keep themselves in that conversation. And like I said, Garrett Richards is expected to come back. Escobar is on his way back. So I think those 2 guys will also kind of help, with the playoff push down the stretch.
Awesome. Joseph wants to know what's going on with your closer situation.
Well, the Angels haven't really had a true closer, for the entire season, really. At the beginning, back in spring training, there were supposed to be 3 guys who were going to compete for that role: Andrew Bailey, Houston Street, and Cam Bedrosian. 2 of those guys, Houston Street and Andrew Bailey, have only pitched 4 innings for the Angels this season. Andrew Bailey's done for the season. Houston Street is probably also done for the season. So, then you saw guys like Bud Norris kind of step in, but then he kind of struggled and lost his job. And, now the Angels have kind of, gone with a lot of different guys in that role. Cam Bedrosian, Blake Parker recently you've seen pitching the ninth a lot. So, I think the Angels have made it known that they don't really want to just, deem one guy their closer and stick with him. They kind of prefer to go with matchups. So I think that's why you've seen kind of a revolving door with that ninth inning role this season.
Makes it more exciting anyways. Ian wants to know what starting pitcher will be key if the Angels make a postseason run.
Yeah, so, I think there are multiple guys who you could kind of look to. I mean, I think Andrew Heaney, I think he's still kind of, shaking off a little bit of the rust after coming back from Tommy John surgery, but he's a really talented pitcher, and I think he could potentially be a difference maker for this club. And like I said before, Garrett Richards is someone else who's on his way back, and he hasn't pitched since the third day of the season, but, when he does come back and rejoin the Angels, he has the potential to be a front of the rotation type of guy, and I think that he could really help solidify that rotation down the stretch.
Another John wants to know if Trout has a chance at the AL MVP.
Yeah, this is a question that's kind of been asked a lot, and in short, I think he does. I'm sure Jose Altuve is probably the front runner right now. Aaron Judge was in the mix before he kind of started to slow down in that second half, but Trout is having his best season to date, and that's really saying something for a guy who has already won 2 MVPs. And despite the fact that he did miss 6 to 7 weeks with that thumb injury, there is precedent for guys winning the MVP despite playing in fewer than 130 games. I think it's happened about 4 times. So if Trout can help propel this team to a playoff spot, I think that will only help bolster his case. So we'll see what happens. It'll definitely be interesting to see how that race ends up playing out.
Awesome. Daniel wants to know, will they go after an ace when free agency starts?
I think it's a possibility. In the last couple of years, you've kind of seen the Angels not really wade into the free agent waters just because their payroll was a little inflated. But I think with Josh Hamilton's contract kind of coming off the books this winter, I think you will see the Angels kind of return to and be players on that free agent market. They will have a lot of holes though at third base, left field, second base, in addition to needing some rotation help. So how they choose to spend that money, we'll see. But I think that bringing in one of the top pitchers available on the free agent market, such as Jake Arrieta or Yu Darvish, I think the Angels could definitely be players for them.
From Shannon, she wants to know about any bats before the August deadline.
We'll see. I mean, obviously there's still a couple of hours left, so I guess Billy Epler could kind of try to pull off a deal for maybe a second baseman or something like that. But I from what I know, there's nothing going on right now, but we'll see.
Well, along with that, from Gary, and what we all want to know, Stanton to Angels?
My guess to that is probably not. Just I don't really see them taking on a contract of that size. Although I'm sure any team in baseball would kind of love to have that kind of power hitter on their team.
Yeah. June wants to know if Trout is ready for the postseason and what we should expect from him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the narrative surrounding Trout's first couple years with the Angels has been the fact that the Angels haven't really been able to capitalize on his prime. Considering the fact that they only made the playoffs once in 2014 and they were swept by the Royals in the first round. But I think that the baseball world really deserves to see the best baseball player on the planet make the postseason. So I think it's really exciting that the Angels are kind of in that mix, and I think that once he does get back to the postseason, everyone will kind of be able to enjoy Mike Trout, at his peak, which is something that I get to do on an everyday basis, which is really cool. So I hope everyone else gets to do that too.
Definitely. David wants to know who Escobar will replace when he gets back.
Yeah, so this is another kind of interesting, good problem to have for the Angels. Mike Scioscia has already said that Escobar will reclaim his starting job at third base. So, when Escobar was injured, the Angels had been able to play C.J. Cron at first and Luis Valbuena at third. So when Escobar comes back, Valbuena will be displaced, although I kind of expect them, Cron and Valbuena, to end up splitting time at first again. Like I said, which is a good problem for the Angels to have, although both of those guys have kind of been hitting well in Escobar's absence. So, I think that at the end of the day, the Angels will probably end up having, a pretty good bat off the bench. So I think that will only help deepen their lineup down the stretch.
All right, cool. And last question. This is from Bill. What will the offseason goals be?
Yeah, so as I kind of mentioned before, the Angels will definitely have a few holes that they'll have to fill during the offseason. Cameron Maybin, Escobar are both guys who are going to be free agents, which will, obviously leave holes at third base, left field, and then, the Angels haven't really found a long-term solution at second base, so that will be another hole they have to fill. And with all the questions that they have about the rotation, I think it would not be a bad idea to kind of add some rotation help. So, those are kind of the holes that the Angels will have to fill somehow. The fact that they'll have some more money to spend because of Josh Hamilton's contract expiring will help. So I do expect them to make one or two big signings, and then we'll see how they end up filling those other holes. So thanks for watching the Beat Reporters Inbox on MLB.com, presented by Edward Jones. Tune in again next time.